Welcome, everybody, to the Neuro Masters show, where we uncover the transformative powers of the mind. I'm Reg Malhotra, your host, and I'm here to guide you with practical tools and inspiring stories grounded in neurolinguistic programming and hypnosis. Now, whether you're a high achiever feeling stuck or a growth seeker looking to overcome setbacks, join us each week to break through barriers and achieve profound personal and professional growth. So let's dive in and unlock your potential.
Hello again, and welcome back to the Neuro Masters podcast. I'm joined, as always, by Reg Malhotra, the founder and CEO of Neuro Masters Academy. Reg, I want to thank you for being here. We are talking today about the new year, 2025, and how we can set ourselves up for success. A lot of strategies to maybe shift our mindset, set up um, our new goals, take intentional steps toward creating the life that we really want and dream of having. So thank you for joining us today. It's a wonderful topic.
Great. Great. Yeah, great to be back for this topic.
Reg, I want to just start by um, as we enter a new year, often it's valuable to reflect on the year that we've had. Can you talk a little bit about why that's so important to look back on what we've accomplished maybe, or maybe some of the missteps that we've made along the way, and how that can prepare us for a better year ahead?
Okay, great question. You see, a new year is like a new endeavor, right? It's a new set of opportunities. And as we think of any new opportunity, new endeavor, it is important to look back. And in the case of a year, there are people who would have had a vision, who would have had set goals for 2024. They particularly must have a look at what worked and what didn't work. What are the learnings? What are the mistakes? What to do and what not to do. So they'll have to reflect back on that. For those who didn't do that and are listening to this, they must begin with this practice. Very important to look at the year, decide what you want coming true. Now, it's good to follow a formula, a framework, if you will, and we can discuss all of that in this episode. But in starting the new year, it's important to consider where you want to be at the end of the year. What should have happened? And then consider the main areas: health, relationships, career, and money. These are very important things to consider. It's very important to consider and almost direct your mind to what it is you want. See, most people spend a lot of their time focusing on what they don't want. And it should be done to an extent formally. It should be done formally. It should be a process where you sit down, you think about what should be in place this year. If you're a business owner, what specifically do you need to have more people in the company? What are the financial goals, growth plans? If it's your personal life, then you need to look at predominantly health, relationships, and your own development and career, money. And people hesitate a lot of times to confirm to themselves what they want. And many times that's because they don't want to be disappointed. So it's better to have a framework to follow, such as the SMART formula: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-based.
You mentioned something in your response, and I know that you've written about this in the Energy Cube Secret, your book, and it's something that I want to kind of dive a little bit more into. It's that often people, when they are thinking about a new year, they're thinking about what they don't want to happen. I don't want to be only making this amount of money. I don't want to be this type of person or this kind of relationship. I want to avoid this and this. And you've written in your book, and you've said this before, that whatever you are thinking about, your mind is just going to filter all the information that comes to you through that framework. So if you are thinking over and over again about what you don't want, essentially you are bringing that now into your life. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of changing that mindset to what you do want, instead of thinking over and over again about what you do not want or want to avoid?
Yeah, great point. We are naturally more oriented to think about what we don't want. And although that can be valid as a consideration point, that shouldn't be a point of focus. So we must all, what do I want instead? We must follow that question with, or follow that thought process with, what do I want instead? You see, a mind, it works based off pictures, sounds, feelings, self-talk, smells, and tastes, right? And if we are clear about what we want, our brain is more likely to run pictures of it. And that's why processes like visualization become so important, because when you put down what it is you want, you're able to visualize having that. You're able to think about it. You're able to talk to yourself about it. But if you focus on what you don't want, say, I don't want to be in this job, your brain will still run pictures of the job you don't want. It's actually pretty simple, right? If I asked you, do not think of a pink elephant, your brain will first try and create a picture or a feeling or a sound of a pink elephant in order to then not do it. So, what do you want to condition your mind with? If your mind is constantly going to what you don't want, it's it's creating a connection. It's actually strengthening the connection with what you don't want. People say, I don't want to be broke. Well, what picture do you run with that? Broke pictures of brokenness. That's a really important point at this time of the year to consider. As soon as your mind thinks about what is it you don't want, follow that up by saying, what do I want instead? As you consider your goals and your objectives for this year.
When you are talking to people about maybe goal setting or looking at the year that they want to have, and you look at the end of 2025, you forecast where you want to be, and then you work backwards. Often people will make very big goals for themselves, but find it's difficult to manage that in the day to day. So they have a very big goal, but it gets almost pushed down the line to December of 2025. Now it's time to really hurry and achieve that.
Yeah.
How can they, in real time, day to day, be making the adjustments that they need, calibrating so that they can reach the goals that they're really trying to achieve?
Yeah, I think a lot of people choose wrong goals. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. So, first part of picking goals or vision or objectives is picking what is right for you. Now, wrong goals come from, firstly, let's look at the magnitude of the goal. If a goal is too big and you don't have a history, you don't have a precedence, you don't have, evidence, your brain doesn't have evidence of you having moved in something of that direction, then it can cause overwhelm and it cause stuckness. You can have a vision, you can have a North Star, right? But a goal has specific characteristics, which I'll talk about in a moment. So that's the first part. The second part is a goal that is too small that can lead to boredom, right? So, what is a right goal? There are a few factors to consider in determining whether the goal is right or whether it's even achievable for you, right? That's a very, very important point to consider when setting goals for a new year, for example. So, in our field, we call it achievability. Achievability is an outcome of a few different factors. So, let me talk about a few of them. Number one, like you said, it should be stated in positive terms. It should be about what it is you want instead of what you don't want. Number two, by the way, this framework that I'm giving that maximizes achievability. Number two is it should be initiated and maintained by you, the goal seeker, that is. To maximize achievability, it shouldn't be your mom telling you what you should do, for example. It should be initiated and maintained by you. Three, there should be specific sensory based descriptions of the outcome. What will you see? What will you hear? What will you feel? And you should have a reasonable idea. This is very important, by the way. You should have a reasonable idea of the steps needed to get there. Now, if you said my goal is to win a lottery, You'll know the first step, which is go and buy a lottery ticket. And you might know another step is wait for when it's announced. And that's all you can do, right? So that's not sufficiently, having it initiated and maintained by you means you are sufficiently in charge of it. That's what maximizes achievability. Specific sensory based description of the outcome. What will you see, hear, and feel? You should consider all of that, because if you don't know that, how will you know you have it? And you should have a reasonable idea of the steps that are needed to get there. If my goal was to build a boat, I should do enough research to know what are the steps required to get there. Number four, ecology is important. Ecology is the word we use in our field. And what that means is it a win-win based goal? Now, are there goals that are not win-win? Yes. Do people achieve them? Yes. But we're talking about maximizing achievability. And if the goal you're going for is harmful to another person, I'll give you an example here. A client of mine once said, I know the exact steps to get to $1 million, and I know it can be done in 12 months. All right. That's the goal I want, because I know exactly how to get there now. Can you help me with whatever the tools and techniques and make sure that I remain motivated and so forth? Well, I asked him about ecology. I said, what will you need to do to get to the goal? He said, oh, I'm just going to have to travel a lot. I'm going to have to work, between 10 and 12 hours a day, and I'm willing to do all of that. Sure. Tell me more about your life. Married? Okay. Children? Yes. How many? 3. Ages? All under 6. For me, that's unecological. I said, how's the marriage going? On the rocks. Sure, he's willing to do it. He's willing to do whatever it takes. But what do you think would happen if for 12 months he was traveling around the country, working long hours while they've got 3 children at home and while the marriage is not working as well as it should? Of course, it's going to have unintended consequences. I think it sounds like a win-loss to me. So that's an important point to consider. In fact, I've said it before, a lot of people don't achieve their goals because at the unconscious level, it would be harmful for somebody else. And that's why there is no one size fits all for goal setting. People think, oh, you just need to be motivated. You just need to want it bad enough. No, there's other factors. And that ecology is an important one. Number 5 thing for achievability, maximizing achievability. There should be more than one way to get the outcome. That maximizes. If there's only one way and it doesn't work, what happens then? Is there more than one way that you can go about it if one way doesn't work? Next one is the first step is specific and achievable. That's all I'm asking you to do. For the first step should be specific and achievable. If your goal is to make more money, firstly, the goal is not specific enough. Your mind cannot assist you. A client once who, we do these processes where we help install a goal into the future of a person's timeline. That's right. Then we call it creating future memories in the now, to the point that your brain actually believes it's already done. And if that's the case, your brain is highly motivated to bring people, circumstances, situations to your awareness that support the achievement of the goal, since it thinks it's already done. There are ways we do that. And this client just wouldn't budge from saying, I just want to make more money. How much? I don't know, but I want to make more money this year. Well, interestingly, 10 months later, he said, I haven't got my goal. I said, well, what's changed in your life? What are you doing differently? Oh, I've changed my job. Okay, what do you do? I'm an armor guard. Now, the goal he actually wrote was, I want to be surrounded by millions. It's a true story. You got to be specific, and you must be able to have the first step be specific and identifiable or achievable. And last but not the least is it should increase choices. It should not reduce your choice. So that's the formula we use, other than SMART. And, it's very important to understand what a goal is versus what a state is. Let me explain that actually. A lot of people say, my goal is to be happy. That's not a goal. Because happy is a state, and it's a state you can actually activate on demand, believe it or not. It's, states or values are ambiguous, they're vague. But saying, I want, this year, I'm going to change my job and apply for 3 specific jobs of this type until I get it so that I can be happier at my workplace is a lot better than saying I want to be happy. The next thing I want to say about goals is ideally goals should be, or outcomes, if you will. I don't even call them goals anymore. I call them intended outcomes or expected outcomes. Expected outcomes. Ideally, they should be written. There's a lot of studies, a lot of research, neuroscience based research, personal development based research, neurolinguistics based research that proves that people who write their goals specifically write them and then review them and then review them, they go back and look at them and rewrite them if they need to, are as much as 60% more likely to have made significant progress in that direction. Of course, assuming all the other conditions that we are talking about are also met. Time should be involved. There should always be time, a statement or an aspect of time. By this quarter, in this quarter, by this date, as at this date, right? It should be measurable, right? So these are some very important points that I've gone through, and listeners may have to go back and re-listen and write them in order to make sure. But to put it in a high-level summary, make sure they are specific. Make sure that they're not too big that they cause overwhelm. You can have a vision, a north star, but you need to break down ideally into 3 big pillars and then have micro actions associated with each of the pillar. And your job is every day to get up and knock out one of those micro actions. If you can do that, you will get to the goal.
I want to talk a little bit about achievement. Into, I'll back up and say a lot of people that are this time of year, they're setting their expected outcomes, and the fear being, well, I might not reach it. But you've mentioned something that I find very interesting, and it's particularly with high achievers that they do reach their goals, but they might be setting the wrong goals or for the wrong reasons. And you've said this before, you've said in a previous episode that achievement without fulfillment is the greatest failure. What happens when you achieve the goal and you realize it's not the goal that you thought it was supposed to be, or you've been setting the wrong goals, and how do you know?
Here's a very important point. A lot of people will compromise their values over their needs. They will go for the needs now instead of values. Values are what's important to us, but a lot of people give in to their needs. And many times, when there is a desire we have, we don't move in that direction because it may mean letting go of something. It may mean giving up something. And this is a very hard point for people. I want to raise that at the start of this year, that it is okay to take 2 steps back in order to take 4 forward. It is okay. And I'm not going to use the word sacrifice, I'll use the term pay the price. Question you want to ask yourself as you consider your goals for 2025: what price are you willing to pay? In fact, I would argue it's good to be able to pay a price because you feel that you earned something. So sometimes these goals that you're choosing over the goals that you really want are a result of you not wanting to give up something. Sometimes just giving up that feeling of being successful in others' eyes. You may have to give that up for a little while. You may have to take some steps back. I know many times in my life, I have taken the things that were very, very important to me, and I've consciously, for example, there's a time in my life that I sold a house that I owned, even though holding on to that house made me feel successful in the eyes of certain other people. So, in other words, it was never my goal. And I remember when I truly realized who I am and what I really want, I sold it and I felt nothing. So, what are you holding on to? What can you let go of? What price are you willing to pay to go after what it is that your heart truly desires? This is a great time to do that. So, you can plan through the year when you get, you can plan how you will, because sometimes giving up something may require a few steps for you to manage it. And that is a great option start of the year. I can give up this idea, this thing that I'm holding on to. this, these shares or this property or this relationship, whatever, or this business, this job, because I did a university or college degree for this job. So how can I? Well, you may have to pay that price, is to let go of your old desires. And just because you did a college degree, it may be that your heart is meant wanting to do something different. I'm glad that's come up because that's one of those hidden points. We can talk about goal setting all day. However, we must talk about what truly drives people and why people do what they do.
Another point that I'd like to touch on that's sort of related to this as well, in that you will ultimately need to give it up or work through it. And it's a topic that you have written about quite a bit in the Energy Cube Secret. The idea of limiting beliefs. Someone can create a perfect goal, have all the steps measured out. They know exactly which points to hit, and they are capable of doing it. And yet, somewhere along the line, they get stuck. And often it's a belief that you're holding on to that I know all the steps, but I can't actually get there. Or if I do, something negative is going to happen. Can you talk a little bit about how to work through limiting beliefs? Is that I imagine early in the process of intention setting, looking at the entire year, you have to look at your own beliefs as well.
Yeah. I spoke earlier about maximizing achievability. What makes a goal more achievable than not? And we went through a few steps. Now, invariably, when you do that, you are going to run into some obstacles. That's the whole journey. Now, there are external obstacles, right? Which will, part of going towards goals is to develop problem solving capability so that you can tackle the external obstacles. Then there is the internal obstacles. And that's what you're referring to by saying limiting beliefs is that, say, I set a goal for $250,000, say it's a financial goal, and I followed all those steps. And now I have a belief sitting in my system that a lot of money means I will not be able to go to sleep in peace. In fact, I say this because I heard this as in a gathering once where I heard a person say, I don't want to invest in property because I want to be able to sleep at night. Now, what's below that? So there is a belief somewhere, whether it's limiting or not, depends on the person's goals. But with that belief, and then aiming for $250,000, say that's a lot of money for somebody, that belief would come up on the surface and they may almost unconsciously sabotage or block their own progress. So it's about recognizing at the stage of setting a goal, it's a really good idea to ask yourself what could be some internal obstacles that could come in my way. Consider them. What are my beliefs? Now, here are the top three beliefs areas that I really encourage people to look at. What are my beliefs about myself? At least get it out on the surface. Currently, what do you believe? What are my beliefs about other people or people in general? And what are my beliefs about possibilities? That could highlight some of your limiting beliefs. The other place that limiting beliefs come from, and I've spoken about in the book, is limiting decisions. You see, anytime we experience a significant emotional event, we can end up making a decision consciously or unconsciously about ourselves, about possibilities, about life. I know in my life I've had a lot of events where I decided something. I was at high school, I auditioned for singing. I've mentioned in different episodes. It didn't go very well. It was horrible. A bunch of people laughed, and I because I experienced a cocktail of negative emotions like anger, sadness, hurt at that point that was strong enough to have made me make a decision. Even though I didn't say it, I made the decision. This is called a limiting decision, that I cannot be seen publicly or cannot be on stage. I mean, that operated for more than 10 years. It was only when I used the tools and techniques that we teach people now to let go of it that you can imagine, last 10 years plus I've been on stages the whole time. What would have happened if I held on to that limiting decision? There are ways to dissolve that. Now, for those who haven't done these NLP and techniques of the subconscious mind, even they can at least start where they are, identify what are events from the past that may have given you a limiting decision that could now become an obstruction to this goal, and then you know, go through a process of determining what is a new decision that will empower you, that would be useful. And when you think of that new decision or new belief, what resistance comes up? Therein lies a lot of your answers, whether the goal is right or not, or whether you'll achieve it or not.
A lot of people will begin in January and they are fired up to achieve their big goals. Maybe it is 250,000. Maybe that's what they want to achieve. And they begin with a lot of energy and then it sort of dies out as it goes along. Can you talk a little bit about the role of, I don't know if we would call it motivation. You have said that the good thing about a year is that it's a collection of days, and so you can continue to change as each day continues. Can you talk to the person who maybe they've set goals in the past, and then by February they've sort of fallen apart? How does someone stay committed to achieving the outcomes that they want?
Right. So there's two aspects to that. Number one, we've been discussing this whole time is the goal right for you? Right? Is it too big? Is it too small? Is it aligned with your values? And is it primed for maximum achievability? Right? We've discussed all of that. For those who haven't heard that, go back to the start of this episode and really become familiar with that. Then there is a second point, is about procrastination and motivation, which are the two sides of the same coin, really. As you set a goal and as you move towards it, one other point I want to make is I spoke earlier about have your North Star, the big vision, have three big pillars that will help. Suppose it's about your business owner and your goal is to have this level of impact. Then you may have three pillars. One is about marketing, one is about PR, one is about people, and then you have micro steps under each of those pillars. And then all you have to do is get up and every day and take those, for example, three micro actions daily. See, this is what can be referred to as a rhythm of accomplishment. You develop a rhythm of accomplishment. That's why you must start with micro actions, but do them consistently. You see, consistency is more important than intensity, especially when you're setting out for a goal. So, if for someone who starts off well and then loses motivation, um, it's a time to look at what are the internal factors and what are the external factors. Sometimes there's external factors, the environment. Like, is the environment inspiring you or is it expiring you? And the environment includes people. It includes where you live. It includes how have you set up your life so that you can get a bit motivated. What is your physical health like? What are your energy levels like? Right? So you'd have to consider that. And internally, what is truly causing the procrastination? See, procrastination a lot of times is a result of exactly what we've been talking about today, is going after goals that are not yours, going after goals that do not inspire you, going after goals that are not as per your value system. Because if it's part of a value system, you don't even need motivation. It's just who you are, is what you do. Right? So that process will need to be considered, and you may have to revisit and decide is the goal right for you, or make adjustments to the physical environment, or break it down and develop further micro actions so you can focus more on consistency first rather than intensity.
I think that's a good point to remember is that because the intensity is often there in January. The intensity is usually not the problem.
Correct. And there's also the point about limiting. Ask yourself, what limiting ideas are you running? What are your stories? What are your thought? What is the decisions you're basing it on? People have so many limiting decisions, particularly about money, about themselves, and about even areas like love. It's incredible. I work with thousands of people. I can tell you there's a common thread right across many people from any parts of the world. People have trust issues. They don't trust themselves or other people. People can be very skeptical. People may not believe, it'll work for them, not for me. These are all limiting decisions we made at different points in our life. I talk in the book about, in the Energy Cube Secret, I talk about this show called Third Rock from the Sun. And in this show, these aliens, if you will, come into human bodies, and their mission is to learn about humans. Now they come into the human bodies and they have to get a job, they have to behave like normal humans, but they don't have any pre-existing belief systems. It's very interesting. And I would often ask people what would happen if you started with a blank canvas? What beliefs would you like to have? And it's incredible to me when I ask people this, a lot of people just, oh, that, I can make more money. No, I'm asking you that you have no prior belief systems, nothing has been passed down to you. What would you like to believe? If you ask me that, I would say, well, I can do anything. And then there is enough going around for everyone, everywhere, right? And that I can, I can achieve consistently, and that I can give consistently. These are the people are not even able to contemplate those beliefs. So if we can do an audit on our belief systems, if you're stopping and starting, then also you will find there are some beliefs, some limiting decisions that are not helping you. And ask yourself the question, when did I decide that? Find out what event it was, and then go and work with it to ensure that you are able to change the meaning of that event. Because I always say the worst day of your life could be the best day of your life if you chose to give it a new empowering meaning. A lot of times it does require work at the subconscious level, because some of these beliefs have been around for so long that they have roots, and we have to pull the roots out like weeds. I call them mental weeds, actually.
Is it possible to achieve your goals without first doing that work that you're describing, or is it going to continually limit you? Perhaps you'll achieve in some smaller ways, but you're not going to maximize your potential.
Well, of course, it's possible, but I would have to assume if it does happen, it's because a lot of the things that I mentioned are in place. It's initiated by the person, it's ecological, it's got time involved in it. It's, a lot of those things is measurable. The first step is achievable. This person is, whether they may realize it or not, but they are probably unconsciously being able to run sensory based ideas. They're able to see, hear, and feel. I know many things I've achieved in my life. You think about it, just say you wanted to have an ice cream today. Say you suddenly got a craving, this thing we call a craving. Well, guess what? You already had it in your mind. That's what you're trying to now actualize it outside. We run this process of visualization so fast and we call it a craving. We've seen it, we've also felt it, and now we're going to go and buy one. That's exactly how goals work. Everything you have in your life, you've actually already ran it enough times in your mind to have felt the feelings of having him. Then you exercise it in the physical. So if you're not being able to run it in your mind, if you're not being able to feel connected with it, it's unlikely you'll achieve it. This is true.
Do you recommend talking to other people once you have set a goal, you know what you want to accomplish? Do you think it's valuable to tell other people about it, or is it something that you keep internally until maybe you're making some progress?
I think there's a lot of stories about keeping it private. I hear that. Look, there's an element of privacy that can be there. However, I think depending on a person's background, do they have a history of achieving goals? Do they, are they a producer? Are they consistent? If all of that has been missing, it's been very choppy, then I would recommend the person is better off declaring, because declarations create self accountability. Because see, people will always do more for others than themselves. This is why people do a lot better at the gym when they have a personal trainer than not. Because what motivates them is that desire to remain accountable and to not disappoint. So for people who have a history of not achieving goals, a history of letting themselves down, history of not doing what they say they would, right? It's a lot better for them to declare it, tell people, post it on social media. This is what and even if you don't get to it, you will see that. Here's the thing about goals, what I've realized over time. One of the greatest advantages of having a goal or an expected outcome or a desire or something that you're moving towards is that you have to become someone. And that's the greatest gift that comes from having a vision and a goal, is that who will I become in the pursuit? Life is not the pursuit of happiness. It is the pursuit in life that is happiness. There's a big difference. Life is not the pursuit. Everyone, I want to be happy. That's not a goal. You cannot make your life about a state. And that's unrealistic, because all of us human beings will go through times of unhappiness. It's how it is. It's how we respond to it that's important. So, but it is the pursuit in life. The human being is a naturally goal seeking mechanism. there must be something we're moving towards. It gives us purpose, it gives us aim, it moves us in that direction. I think that's the most exciting part. And I think people shy away from having amount of people that are saying, oh, no, nothing really, I'm not going for anything specific. It is a balance. You want to have something you move towards. At the same time, you want to have this, game of surrender. You don't want to be, it's like, it's said in sales, you want to put your best foot forward. You want to put you want to focus on the process, and you want to focus on the client and their needs, and you expect the best, but you also let go of the attachment to the outcome. And that's the beauty of what I'm discussing here. Follow the process and then move, make sure that you are, taking steps towards it, but you're also moving without being attached to the outcome. Because if you get to the end and you didn't achieve the goal, the question is, due to the pursuit, who did you become? What response systems have you developed? What neurology have you developed? This is the most exciting part, actually. And we help a lot of people, give them tools and techniques so they can not only set goals, they can move towards them, they can let go of things that block them. And the beautiful part is when I see them become this new person, have let go of those old identities. It's so exciting.
I think that last point is so fascinating. Something that the listeners can carry with them in this new year is that you need a goal that's going to get you to move and begin, but it's that process that is, and you've said it before, it's who are you going to become? Who are you becoming in the process of achieving a goal? Because you might get to the end and not hit exactly the mark that you were trying to hit, but what has happened over the course of a year in pursuit of that goal? That's that's wonderful. I think that's something that I'll certainly carry. I think our listeners will as well. For people who are listening, maybe
Yes.
they've been given a lot of practical advice today. They know the framework for setting good goals, the importance of looking at your own limiting decisions. If they want to now maybe take it a step further, I know that you have techniques and strategies that you share with thousands of people. What can they do if they're looking for additional resources or help in moving forward, making this their best year?
Yeah, if people are serious about their goals, I would highly recommend people, um, talk to go to our website, neuromastersacademy.com, book a call with one of our master practitioners, and just have a discussion. Find out from them what will help you, because we need to learn a little bit about who you are, where you've been, what inspires you, and then be able to recommend a course of action. We have some very exciting techniques that help you create future memories in the now and gets installed at the subconscious level, so you can wake up and be motivated on a regular basis. You don't have to push. And we also help you with values alignment, so your goals are aligned with your values. Some really exciting stuff. But as a minimum, people should, in any case, practice visualizations. People should, once they're clear about what they want, they should step into their body. This is called associating. See what they would see, and ask yourself, what will you see? What will you hear? What will you feel when you get the goal? And how will you know you have it? But also, step into your body, see what you would see, hear what you would hear, and really feel what you would feel. If you're having problems doing that, you need to ask yourself, is the goal right for you? I know for me, if a goal feels, if I really want something, I know that if I try and see, hear, and feel receiving that goal, it's not hard for me at all. Right? Now, that doesn't always have to imply it's a wrong goal for you, but maybe you need to practice more. The second part of that is dissociating, means you need to, in your mind, you need to move out of your body, as in see your body in the picture, in that goal. So both are important: associating, looking through your own eyes, and then seeing your body in the picture, for example, in the last step that tells you you got the goal. So we have some really powerful techniques that can wire these in for people. And I think people book in a call. We may even give them a quick demo, especially high performers, business owners. You see, these sort of people, they have a lot of, they demand a lot from themselves, and, all the buck stops with them. For other people, the bigger challenges we've seen is in relationships. Either they are scared of going into a relationship because of what happened in the past one. But when I ask them, they truly do want to be in a relationship. I think they may need to utilize some of these techniques as well. And of course, read the Energy Cube Secret to get more clarity on what could be stopping you. and some of the other ideas that are relevant not only to goal achievement but to you becoming you know different versions of yourself.
Reg, I want to thank you for joining us again today, and I want to wish you and all of our listeners really a happy and a healthy and fulfilling new year. And with these steps and practices put into place, I know that our listeners can make this their very best year. So thank you. Is there anything you'd like to say in closing?
There's a couple of points I'll make. One was an example I was going to give earlier. How it slipped my mind was, yesterday was my son's 17th birthday, one of my son's 17th birthday, and he said he wants to go on a boat. I've never driven a boat before, but he was adamant. And I employed the same thinking because initially the limiting decision came up, the limiting idea came up. I've never ridden a boat before. What would happen if I crashed it? And I asked myself, let's think of it as a goal. I asked myself, who will I become at the end of that day? Now I'm a guy who has driven a boat. And I think that really inspired me. And we had an absolutely fabulous day, right? Because now I'm no longer the person who hasn't driven a boat. I have, right? And it's given me more confidence to drive the next boat, the bigger boat,
Mm,
right? So, and I think that's the beauty of having something to go toward the pursuit. You become someone, you change. I'm changed how I feel in relation to, you know, captaining, if you will, a small boat,
mm,
right? And the second point I wanted to make was, people say Happy New Year and Happy Birthday, and this may be extreme for some people. I stopped short of that yesterday or day before. I said to people, wishing you an adventurous
mm,
New Year. And I think this is a very important point. Happy is a state. Life is not the pursuit of happiness. It is the pursuit in life that is happiness. And that happiness comes with obstacles, with course correcting, with different types of moments, different emotions. They're not all going to be happy. So a happy new year is in a way implying that may the whole year be happy for you. No, some of the greatest learning, some of the greatest growth comes from moments of pain, moments of reflection, moments of adversity. And we don't want to not wish that upon people, but we want to say have an adventurous and powerful year where you learn, you grow, you change, you succeed, you make mistakes. And that's my big message for 2025 for everybody.
Reg, thank you very, very much. And thank you, all of you, for listening. We wish you an adventurous new year. And bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Neuro Masters show. I'm Reg Malhotra, reminding you that your trauma is seen, your transformation is possible, and your breakthrough is right around the corner. If you found today's episode valuable, you can visit our website for many more resources to register for a live breakthrough experience and to continue your journey of reclaiming your full self.